I've been good all week long, and I think it's about time for my reward. I don't need no chocolates with cherries inside. No, mama, I just wanna go out tonight. Well, mama, and I go out tonight. Well, it's a real cool chick that got my eye on. Well, now, mama, she's only 17. Oh, but the way that girl moves, mama, she's real mean. Well, now I just want to go downtown, see what the other guys do. Well, I'll be home for tonight. Mom, you know, well, I really ain't for this, mama. Well, please, please, can I go? Lord, well, I'll be going for too long. All right, Rio. Yeah. Well, mama, and I go out tonight. Thought it won't be long before the sun is going down. Well, now, mama, before it gets too late, well, I want to use the car.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I don't care what you're a mom of, if you're a pet parent, if you are a trans parent, if you are a just
if you are a motherly figure,
if you're a mother,
yeah,
you got my
I mean,
respect.
I'm just talking about Shaft.
Can you dig
Chicken
it?
mouth.
But yeah, happy Mother's Day. My wife Aaliyah is a pet parent. Sophie has given her lots of love today.
There's a great quote. Mark Twain said, "When I was 14 years old, my father was a complete idiot. When I was 21, I was amazed how much he had learned in 7 years." Great quote. I love that. And then about 20 years ago, I read a similar quote from Amy Heckering, who people don't know who she is. She's the director of Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Clueless. And she said, I've got a similar quote, a woman's version of it. She said, "When I was 16 years old, I thought my mother was the worst mother on the planet. And then when I had my first kid, I was amazed how much she knew." And so many people, so many families have stories about a person who might be your mother, it might be your mother-in-law, it might be a grandmother, it might be a mothering figure, it might be a father, somebody who comes in and teaches you how to be a parent. And
Yes.
I know for me, and Dave, I don't know if you guys have the same thought, but you guys are also childless couples, as far as I know.
Yep.
And I feel like I have an enormous debt to all my friends out there who are raising great children. And it's so hard, and there's so much work. And so here's my salute to all the people that are raising great children And I know that behind all of that is a great figure who taught them how to be great parents.
Yeah.
And for me, Mother's Day is as much about that as anything else.
Especially in today's climate, raising a child in today's climate, all the stuff going on,
Right.
it's not easy. It's not. I mean, we see, I see a lot of kids nowadays are being almost raised by, either a
Television.
cell phone or a tablet
Yeah.
or and the parents that keep it on the educational side, you have my respect. It's not easy today to raise kids. You've got they have access to all the information in the world.
Yeah.
It's right at their fingertips.
Yep.
But they're also 24/7. They are, and that's why bullying has become such a big issue. Is that when we were kids, if you got bullied at school, that ended at the end of the school day. You go home and you're in your home, and you don't you typically didn't get bullied in your home unless it was also continued by your loved ones,
Right.
or not so loved ones. Now with these things, you've got 24/7 access to somebody. You can harass them online as soon as the school day is over. You can harass them during the school day if you're in a different class. So I mean, these kids are um, being impacted 24/7 by technology and for the most part the newer parents did grow up with the technology and they're able to adapt a little bit better, I think. But people my age back when I was a kid
Right.
didn't have. I mean, a blessing and a curse that we didn't have the internet because it was a curse that we didn't have all that knowledge at our fingertips, but also you know a blessing that all the stupid shit I did when I was a kid is not online. There are
Oh
no
yeah.
pictures. There are pictures of it, but they're unless they get digitized, they're not going to be out there. Hey, Craig, how
It's
you
funny
doing?
you say that. Hey, Craig, how's it going? I was talking about this. I'm getting ready to go to my high school 40th year reunion. And I am going to be saying a few words for two faculty members who died in the last year, who had just a huge impact on my life. And I guess I can share some of it here. One of them was the head of the math department, and I wasn't ahead of. I was really good at math, but I wasn't in the most advanced class, which is sort of a choice of where you want to be, right? Some people take calculus 2 in high school. Some people only take calc 1. It's just based on where you went in your math career. So I didn't get into calc 2 because I wasn't into it. Oh, you know what it was actually? Take it back. I did calc 2 as a calc 1 as a junior, and I decided not to do calc 2 as a senior. Uh, just because I'm like, you know what? I can choose not to take any math because I don't need to. I've achieved my math requirement to graduate. And so I can take more history classes, which is what I was really into. Um, However, I goofed around in Calc 1. And the math professor, the head of the math department, pulled me out of the honors Calc 1 class.
Hmm.
And he put me into the sort of I don't know, calculus for dummies class, if such a thing exists. Um,
I would have been in that if I were made of calculus.
it, it was, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting thing. Uh, and I hated it. I mean, it was terrible. And that semester, this was the winter semester, we took the SATs for the first time my junior year. And I'm not going to brag, but we got a perfect score on the math part. And I'll tell you, that's pure luck. I know a lot of people who are better than me at math who did not get an 800. 800 is just, did you see the trap? Because some questions are set up to be traps. And are you by nature skeptical of the information that they give you along the way? Which, both of those things, that was made for me.
Yeah.
However, after that score, the head of the math department came to me. He's like, do you hate it? being in the regular math class. I'm like, I do hate it. He's like, well, just remember, it's a privilege to be with the smart people. Like, and here in school, you tend to get lumped into that all along the way. But in the rest of your life, people are not going to put you in with the smart people unless you've earned it. And you earn that through work and by earning respect.
Yeah,
Man, that lesson stayed with me my entire life. It was a great
absolutely.
thing. And there are a lot of parents who have to do that sort of lessoning, the hard lesson, the conversation they have to have with their kids. Because, right, there's a million things out there right now that are dangerous traps for children. Drugs. And listen, I am, I famously didn't get a job because the employer asked me if I would take a drug test. And I said, no problem. I know everything about drugs. But I do believe that drugs can be a dangerous trap for children.
Oh yeah,
Uh, Driving, drinking, uh, affiliation, social media, so much stuff. It's so hard. And, this day, Mother's Day, it's really about parenting. And so I think, we just want to say, salute
yeah,
to all the people out there that are doing the mothering jobs, regardless of biology.
exactly. I mean, and if you find yourself out there and you are mad because somebody wished Mother's Day to say a pet parent or somebody that uh is not what you consider biologically female or whatever,
That's
understand,
insane.
stop. Like, just let people celebrate how they celebrate, because it impacts you in no way. It impacts you in no way. No, somebody being celebrated by someone else is not going to lessen your celebration whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how can somebody possibly be unhappy about somebody else wishing somebody a happy Mother's Day? I
Yeah.
mean,
I've seen step parents get raked over the coals. I've seen, pet parents and trans parents, and you know, uh, you know,
listen,
I've seen people who wish, like, a dad who's a single father getting
yeah,
wished a happy Mother's Day. Well, he's performing both roles, so
yeah.
celebrate him as much as you can. He's stepping up,
Well,
whereas many dads don't
you
do
have
that.
no idea what another parent is going through. So
Exactly.
this small little
Celebrate.
thing, I got another story about this. So my friend Johnny C, uh, he his wife died, and he was raising his daughter as best he could. And his mother had passed. His mother-in-law, they'd always had sort of conflict, and so she wasn't particularly present. And when his daughter was 6 years old, she wanted to do ballet, and he took her to ballet. And on the recital day, he came and he brought us, sort of proud friends. And we were standing there in the back, and his daughter got up there and she, you know, all this stuff, the plie, first position, second position. And we were sort of clapping. And a woman next to us said, that girl is a beautiful dancer, but how could her mother let her go on stage looking like that? And I think that maybe it was like a comment about the fact that she didn't have any makeup on, which is kind of weird anyway. But I understand that there is, right, pageantry makeup, but then there's like stage makeup. You might put a little lipstick on somebody so they wouldn't be paled out by whatever, or the way the hair was done or whatever. But my friend just started crying because here he is trying to do the best that he can, and now somebody has sort of publicly criticized the job that he's doing. And my friend's
Jesus.
not right. Right. I saw this guy when we played soccer together have his leg broken. He didn't cry then, but here is his daughter on stage, and
Yeah.
somebody saying, "How could he?" And that was what just broke him.
Oh,
And
I
to her
mean,
credit,
it breaks me.
yeah,
I feel for the dude.
yeah. And so I said something to the woman, at the time. I'm like, this is that girl's father, and he's a single parent, and he's doing the best he can. And she started crying. She's like, I can't believe that I said that. She's like, I didn't mean anything. I was just being catty in the back. And
Wow.
once she realized what she'd said, then she got it too.
Yeah.
But it's a learning moment for everybody. There's so many people who want to do something other than be the most gracious person they can be, which is, even if you don't think somebody's being a good parent, and I can tell you, there are plenty of my friends who I don't think are being great parents. I worry about it all the time. But I'm not going to not wish them happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, thank you for raising great kids. You know, I'm going to disagree with some people out there about their vaccination schedules, right? And that's not giving away which way I am, one way or the other. But I wouldn't criticize their parenting, right? I wouldn't not say Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So just be kind. Everybody
Yeah.
be kind.
Oh, God, we need more kindness.
Yep.
And that brings us to the topic for this week, talking about fear. And, throughout history, fear has been used as a powerful tool to, in the hands of politicians by exaggerating threats, by creating the othering, whether it's foreign enemies, internal dissent, or economic collapse, just to rally support for whatever they're trying to push, or to suppress opposition or justify extraordinary measures. They are reducing us to, like I said, to othering, the us versus them, pitting groups against one another. The British used to use this as, the divide and conquer in
Yep.
their colonies. Pitting groups against one another to horrifying results in many countries. Um,
It's older than that. The Romans used to take,
oh
when
yeah,
they conquered one region, they would take soldiers from one region and bring them to another to make the guards and
exactly.
stuff like that.
So, and a lot of times they use this to silence debate, to create narratives about division, allows the government to expand surveillance. Well, we've seen that, limit freedoms. We're seeing that, and we've seen it in the past as well, and consolidate power. And we're seeing that in spades right now, all in the name of security. That whole adage about those who favor uh, security over liberty deserve neither, or will get neither. Um, when people are afraid, they're most likely to accept authoritarianism disguised as protection. But the danger is not just in the fear itself; it's now how easily it can be manipulated, and we're seeing people being manipulated. And we've seen it. This is not just an attack on what the Trump administration is doing. We've seen fear used heavily in the last 20 years. I mean, it's always been a feature of politics, but we can go back to the Red Scares and all that stuff. Um, but it's really being used heavily now. Whether it is Democrats talking about gun control, or Republicans talking about immigration,
Yep.
or trans issues, or anything like that, we're seeing people being manipulated, turning democracy into a stage of control rather than representation, where
Yep.
must question not only what we're being told to fear, but also who benefits from our fear. And more
Right.
often than not,
I was going to
it's
say, who benefits, right? Famously written as Cui Bono,
yeah,
QUI space BONO. What is
not
the
Sonny Bono.
benefit? You should ask that about everything. Every time you hear disinformation or even information, why is somebody spreading that information to you? And if somebody's making you feel afraid,
Yep.
what is the point of that? And we've talked about this to a certain extent. Political parties in the United States don't care at
What's
all.
up,
Hey,
James?
James, how's it going? Political parties in the United States only care about winning elections. And the best way for them to do that is to fracture their opposition. And you see so many issues coming through right now. Uh, you know, Abortion isn't, I don't even think that abortion is a fracturing issue, because it fractions Republicans and Democrats. But, well, it's going to be interesting, because I do think that there's fractures within the Republican Party
Yeah.
about pro choice. I don't think there's a lot of fracture on the left. And then maybe there's a little bit,
A little
but
bit
I think that
religious.
80% of
Yeah.
people are actually united. On the other hand, we talk about other aspects of being made to be afraid. There's a great idea that was spread around. It's completely not true, but that illegal immigration makes your access to social services less, or that immigrants aren't paying taxes. And the fact is, illegal immigrants, undocumented workers aren't paying taxes. But the reality of it is that, of course, undocumented workers do pay taxes.
They
They pay
do.
sales tax. They usually have a fake income, a number, and they pay income tax. And so they never get any of that back in returns. They actually
And
pay more taxes.
yeah, and it pays. They actually are propping up things like Social Security and unemployment
Yep.
taxes and things like that because right now we're not producing. I mean, that's kind of this weird trad wife push of producing more babies. Um,
Yeah.
the workforce that we have, there's this dip in the workforce that it used to be like 8 workers would pay into the Social Security benefits for 1 worker drawing out of it.
Right.
Now it's like 2 to 1 and,
Yeah.
and dropping rapidly
Yep.
and kicking out a bunch of people and preventing people from coming over. We're not going to see that revenue come into the government. And, we can debate whether the government not having revenue is a good thing or a bad thing, but we are rapidly, I mean, we're putting pressure on the Social Security system from both sides. You're getting more people going onto the rolls and getting paid by Social Security numbers, by Social Security Administration. You're getting less and less people contributing to the system, and you're causing it to,
Yep.
it's going to go bankrupt, and you're going to see lots of bad things happen from there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But
And so,
fear. I mean, like for
keep
me,
going
when
about
we
fear.
talk, yeah, when we talk about fear, and we talk about what's going on here, I, you know, I think that the change has happened because it used to be that use fear, like the gun control debate, even the abortion debate. They use fear to drive political donations, and they've done that to an extent. Now they're using fear to actually drive government policy and actually do things. Because one of the things I used to say is they didn't want to solve the abortion issue. They don't want to solve the immigration issue because they raise so much money off of it. The
Right.
longer it keeps to being a problem, the more money they can raise politically to run races off of it.
Right.
Now they're using it to instill fear of, who's living next door to you.
Right.
If you think it's an immigrant, call this number.
Yeah.
Um,
And it allows them to take advantage of people's concern over legitimate issues, right? Because there are so many legitimate issues that we do have disagreement on,
Yeah.
that are getting lost because of these issues in which people are being made to be fearful. Now, let's talk about what's the solution to that, because fear is built into us genetically, right? I mean,
I mean, you talk about
most
like
people,
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, if you're in fear,
yeah,
everything else doesn't matter.
exactly. And for most people, their reaction is either, their reaction to fear is either fight or take a long trip.
Yep.
Well, flight.
Like,
Okay, flight. That's a bad flight joke. But when you put people in that situation, and so for those of us who want to try to build consensus, we have to fight the fear mongerers. And so we have to find a way to fight fear. How can we make these people, how can we help people to feel safe? Because, if we think about it, what makes you, Dave, feel safe about for example, let's talk about a real fear mongering thing: guns.
Statistics, education. I mean, and that's the thing. I can talk to you. I mean, there are things in this world that we absolutely need to be afraid of.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that you don't need to be afraid of anything. There are definitely things that you need to be afraid of. What helps you get through fear is educating yourself on the issue, is finding out, yeah, school shootings are awful. They are. But if you take the number of schools that meet every day and the number of incidents that actually happen, the chance of your child meeting this issue head on is very nil.
Yeah,
It sucks when it happens, and there are things that we can do to really kind of tamp down on it. Um,
right.
but
Right,
it's
right.
educating yourself on the issue so that you can make a rational decision. Because if they're making you make a fearful decision, you're not using all of your faculties to make that decision. You're just trying to say, I gotta do something. And if
Well,
we just do something, something's gonna happen. We're gonna be okay. You
exactly.
got
And
if you take a step back and you analyze the issue and say, okay, let's make a rational choice about which things we move forward with. We're
yeah.
not doing that.
Well, hey, Laura, thanks for turning in. You're right
Okay, hey,
that you
Laura.
are fighting against this constant influx of propaganda. And so sometimes I think that when you're faced with people who are fearful, you have to perform jujitsu, where you sort of turn it around, you turn the argument around. And so a lot of times when people say, I'm worried about the number of guns in the United States, it's a legitimate thing to say, I don't disagree with you. I think that, maybe there are too many guns, but what is a way that we can address that issue that isn't worse than the alternative?
Yeah,
And then we can start having legitimate conversations. Because I think
exactly.
that for most people, most gun owners will tell you, yeah, I do support some level of gun control, right? Now, it may not be what's going to make a lot of liberals happy, but most gun owners will tell you, yeah, if you've been, if you were just released from jail for a murder charge and you got out on bail, it's reasonable to say, yeah, we can have a scenario in which we don't think that people who are currently out on bail should be allowed to possess firearms.
Yeah, yeah.
We Things like that. Having a place where we can meet along the way. And in fact, I don't know anybody who is pro-choice who says third trimester abortions are awesome. We should
Yeah.
make sure that there are lots of third trimester abortions. But they're so fearful of getting. I like, James, that you distinguish between getting raped by illegal rapists and getting raped by legal rapists, because those legal rapists, that's the guys I want to take care of. And it's interesting because we could talk about that, right? I mean, there is a lot of we just had a case, right, where a town in Florida got rid of the whole police department because the police department was engaged in all sorts of things, disappearing evidence, uh,
Yeah.
having
I've seen
sex,
that. Yeah.
yeah, having sex with prostitutes in return for not pressing charges against them, stuff like that. Those
That's
are
not a new thing, though. I mean,
legal. No, it's
but
definitely not a new thing.
well, in some jurisdictions, I know that it's legal for the police to engage in a sex act with a prostitute to then arrest them with evidence, um, which is crazy to me. I know that there was a big stink made in Hawaii about that a while back. Um, if you're trying to get rid of prostitution, don't let the police do prostitution. Like
Right.
just just asinine responses to vice, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think the thing is we need to learn to have rational conversations with one another, and when you inject fear into the debate,
Yep.
you are derailing that possibility. You
Right.
are
And
at least one side's going to be so inflamed that they're not going to listen to any rational discussion.
well,
That they're
so the other side of that is that if you tell somebody that their fear is irrational and just dismiss it,
oh no,
you're
yeah, you can't do
you're
that.
not helping the case.
Nope.
Okay, even though there are plenty of irrational fears, right? I mean, people are worried about alien abduction or whatever else you want to talk about. If you tell somebody that their fear is irrational, you're saying they're irrational. If you tell them that their fear is stupid, then their fear is stupid. Then you're calling them stupid, and nobody responds well to that. You can, however, if somebody tells you about an irrational fear, I encounter lots of people who tell me about this irrational fear that Jews run the media. Okay, I don't tell them
I
this.
mean, you're on this show, dude. Like,
Exactly. But I'm not running it, or maybe I am. Maybe I am. I wish I were on top. My picture were on top because I would do this and have you put your hands up and see what I'm saying.
There we
There we
go.
go. Lift your hands. It's very funny. I am the puppet master. So in this case,
For the record, Dan wishes he was on top. I'm
right.
just saying.
Exactly. But so when people tell me they're worried about the Jews running media, I'll try to engage them. I don't want to tell them that that's crazy. I'm like, what makes you think that that's really what's happening? And then, they'll say, oh, well, look at Hollywood. And I'll say, okay, I look at Hollywood. And, there's no question that there are a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood. But, there's a lot of Jewish people in all sorts of places where there was an opportunity to make money in new technology. That's something that Jews have always done. That they've always explored new technology. But controlling, I mean, and then, we'll go into other things about it. We can talk about it. But having a conversation and saying, oh, the Jews control everything, you can't get any information. I'm like, well, what about all this information that you've got? What's special about you that you were able to figure all these things out and nobody else could? Why aren't the Jews coming for you if they control media? Having those sort of conversations, trying to engage people. And look, there are some people that I just won't engage with anymore. Like I've tried to have reasonable conversations, but I'll give everybody a chance to have a conversation about something. Like, for example, this leads into something we were talking about today. A guy who I have called a friend in the past, I wouldn't say that we're friends now, but well known to the Liberty Movement, Adam Kokesh, published a Holocaust denial post on Facebook today. Now, he wouldn't characterize it as a Holocaust denial because he said, it's pretty
He's just
clear.
asking questions.
Well, he said, it seems like, about 2 million people were killed in total, and some of them were Jews, but not all of them. And that's true. Certainly not all of the people were Jews.
All of them, no,
but in many ways, and there's, if you feel like you want to look this stuff up, Wikipedia is a good place to start, as a place to give you links to go to other places. National Holocaust Museum, they have all sorts of things. It is the most well documented Holocaust, genocide, etc. in history. There is ample evidence that the numbers.
And the Germans are pretty upfront about the numbers themselves.
Yeah.
And if there was anybody that was willing to diminish the numbers, I'm not talking about the AfD by any chance,
Right.
but the German government acknowledges the numbers. And if there's any group that wants to diminish the numbers, it would be them.
Yep. Well, in many ways, I mean, the way they have stepped up has been pretty good in terms of, giving a model to the world of this is how you move on. You accept responsibility, you apologize, etc. And it's going to be interesting because I have a feeling that we're going to be doing something like that relatively soon. Hopefully not for nothing as bad, but it's going to be interesting. How long ago was it that we I think it was Bill Clinton, right, who apologized to the Japanese for their internment during World War II. That was a
I
pretty long time
believe.
coming.
Well, I know Obama got in trouble for apologizing for. I think that was in Egypt. Um,
I mean, it's a fascinating thing. You do have to do that. But so Adam posted this thing about it, and it would have been easy for me to press block, but I wanted to post and reply to it first of all, so that other people on the thread would see a counter viewpoint,
yeah.
but also to engage and say, look, here's the evidence that's out there. And I pointed them to the Holocaust Museum and the Wikipedia page. And I said, generally speaking, this is as well documented as anything you could ask for in history. It's relatively recent. It's within the last 100 years. There are written records, there are video records, there are audio records, there is testimony from people who participated on every side. And based on all that, and here's all the numbers, and how many people in each place, who was killed by what. Uh, this is why they come up with these numbers.
Yep.
And I don't know if he's responded yet or not, but I think it's an example of one of the ways that you can fight fear. And let's be clear that anti-Semitism is specifically designed to create fear, to get people to give up their liberty. There's a classic quote from the New Testament where they describe Jews as a stiff-necked people. And you sort of go through Old Testament, New Testament history. Jews are always in trouble for not complying with authority completely, right? The story of Hanukkah, all these other things. And so anti-Semitism is always revived as a way to say, look, here are these dangerous people who don't bow their heads when the king passes, who don't comply with authority, who are, trying to be outside of the government. And it's funny because, here now you have this large, quote unquote, anti-government revolution going on, right? The MAGA revolution, which is in reality creating a larger bureaucratic government than has ever existed.
Yep.
But they're marshaling some anti-Semitic stuff in there.
Oh God, yeah. Which is, I mean, it's really weird. Like they're the juxtaposition that we're seeing in how they're trying to round up students who protested the Israeli Gaza war, however you feel about
Right.
that,
Exactly.
on grounds of anti-Semitism, but their golden boy Elon Musk
Exactly.
throwing Nazi salutes at rallies, and
Yep.
then using anti-Semitic language and marshaling resources of people like the Proud Boys and groups that are the alt right
Right.
to satisfy this lust for power. It really is just this weird juxtaposition of what's going on. But yeah, we saw this week the Libertarian Party of Colorado put out another meme with the
Unbelievable.
greedy merchant.
Yep.
It's been 0 weeks since the LP has put out a greedy merchant meme,
Well,
and
what's fascinating about it is that was the trifecta, right? It was biased against women, against Jews, and against blacks.
Yep.
It was astonishing. And to think that the Libertarian Party of Colorado, right, and I'm calling it by its name, though,
Stormfront.
yeah, exactly. Right, exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
Right, exactly. Right. Stormfront would publish that meme is insane. And the person who published that meme is now an alternate on the LNC.
Oh, who is it now?
He was elected the alternate for Region 1.
Oh, great.
I can't remember what the hell his name is, but somebody passed a motion to to censure him. They asked first to remove him. Oh, it's John Hudak who
No.
brought this up.
Hudak? Oh, no. I was like, Hudak, who did it? No. I was like, what? Hudak's in Tampa, though.
No. Hudak tried to get him removed, tried to start to remove him, and people pointed out the LNC can't remove a regional delegate. Yeah. So then he's like, well, the LNC should censure him, and we should try to get the other state chairs to remove him, because that's how it would have to work. The state chairs would have to vote for it. So it's interesting. I don't know what's going to come of it, but
I tell you, ever since Memorial Day weekend of 2022, I've not regretted one moment leaving the Libertarian Party. Like, just every week there's something. But we were talking before the show. What is it about the people in the libertarian movement and the broader libertarian movement and their not only anti-Semitism, and I'm not broad brushing everybody in the libertarian movement.
Yeah, of course not.
But there is a strain in the liberty movement that is anti-Semitic and like super
xenophobic
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, right. They love conspiracy theories, and I thought about this a little bit, and part of me thinks that there are a lot of times that the mainstream news really isn't reporting everything. And that doesn't help. I mean, you can go back and you can look at just off the top of my head, I'm sure between the two of us, we can name a dozen major lies that the government has put out.
Yes.
Right? Food pyramid, Tuskegee incident, moon landing. No, sorry, I'm kidding about the moon. But that sort of thing. And so there is this problem that there has been campaigns of disinformation. But libertarians only apply skepticism to things that come from authoritarian sources.
Yes.
And so conspiracy theories, because they come from non-authoritarian sources, people are like, please believe me, I'm asking you to. I made up this crazy thing. And I give you an interesting example of that. So there was a poll on Threads today that said, what death on television impacted you the most? And this is sort of in the line of, people who watch The Last of Us know what I'm talking about. You probably heard this news. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But so I wrote, for me, a lot, and there was, you talk about things that are on there, a lot of Henry Blake on MASH, a lot of McSteamy or McDreamy, I don't remember which one, on whatever that show is called. Grey's Anatomy. A lot of people mentioned 30-something, things like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that redheaded guy.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned Big Bang Theory. The Jewish guy's mom died on it. I can't remember the character's name. But I said, for me, the one that I remember the most, because it was meaningful, was in Return to Hazard County, when they find out that Uncle Jesse has died from AIDS. And Bo and Luke come back, and they're baffled as to why he couldn't tell them, he couldn't share that aspect of his life with them. And so, it's a show about that, but it's a death with real meaning. And at the end of it, they replace the Confederate flag with the rainbow flag, and they do. Bo or Luke, I can't remember which one is the driver, ends up winning the Hazard County race. Now, of course, none of that's true.
I was like, I don't remember this. Like, I was about to step in, like, when did this happen?
Of course, none of that's true. But so many people believe
that would have been like the biggest butterfly effect ever.
Exactly. So many people believed it. And they're like, I got the haters. They're like, typical woke shit. That should never happen. Blah, 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 blah. And then other people who are like, oh my God, and nobody, like, I mean, maybe 3 people said, you're making that up, or they questioned it. When I can't imagine anything that would have been crazier, right, than what I just said.
I was like, the thing that got me was replacing the Confederate flag with a rainbow flag on the General Lee, like,
Exactly.
and they would have had to rename it from the General Lee to
I actually wrote that into my thing. I said
the
instead they
Kathy
changed
Lee
it from
or
being
something.
called the General Lee to being called Generally. Yeah.
Oh,
See,
wow.
that's exactly it, James, right? Those Duke boys never mean no harm,
That's
right?
right.
But
I was like, when did Jesse get AIDS?
exactly.
Oh,
But
my
it would have
Lord.
been a good storyline.
That would have been a hell of a story. I would have watched it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you could do it because the actor who plays Uncle Jesse is dead, so he's not even going to object to it.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, I do think that we are prone to conspiracy theories because if you are, as libertarians, we question a lot of the stuff that the government does. And there's so
Yes.
much government fiction out there. So, like, the idea of the Federal Reserve, right? That the idea that the Federal Reserve isn't printing money when we know that it is. I mean, we just know that it's true.
Yeah.
And the government's, oh, no, it's not. And so much stuff. And, if we want to talk vaccines or let's talk fluoride in the water, right? Okay. The idea, and I don't care where you are on the vaccine issue, I don't care where you are on fluoride in the water. The idea that there's no conversation to be had about that is completely crazy, completely manipulative. And you see lots of places to where fluoride is being removed from the water. And I think there's a state that's considering, right? Utah just passed.
Florida. No, Florida's talking about removing it.
Right. But I think Utah actually just did remove it from all water, all towns in Utah.
I mean, not a surprise there either.
Yeah. The nice thing about it is that, and here's the thing, it's completely true that fluoride is toxic, right? Fluoride at high levels is toxic, but
How high
water.
a level?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like, you remember ALAR, the debate on ALAR? So ALAR was the stuff they used to put on apples, and it made them look shiny. I can't remember what the actress's name was that really railed against the use of ALAR. And yeah, there was a carcinogen within ALAR that she was able to argue about getting it banned. And ALAR wasn't, it's not a cause celeb that we all should have, the hill that we should have died on. But um, the amount of apples you would have had to have eaten to put yourself at risk for cancer was like, you were eating like 4,000 apples a day. You would have died from an impacted colon due to apple consumption before you would have gotten cancer.
Right.
And it's kind of the same way that with fluoride, you will die of water toxicity within your system long before you suffer any gross problems with fluoride.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, I'm just looking at it right now. If you were to eat a whole tube of toothpaste, you'd be pretty sick.
Wait, is it from the fluoride or from everything in the toothpaste, though?
I'm reading an NIH paper right here, so I think it's reasonable. I wish I had a quick summary.
I've got to cut back on my consumption of toothpaste then.
Exactly right. Oh, I mean, right. The thing is, right. Who actually eats it? But it's the amount that you eat in brushing your teeth is minimal. And, how long does a tube of toothpaste last you?
Yeah.
By yourself, right? Years.
Yeah.
And so And it is clear that there is a relationship between fluoride and better teeth rating. I mean, if I were a conspiracy
Look at
person,
Britain.
right, exactly. If I were a conspiracy person, I'd be much more inclined to say, you know what, they're trying to get rid of the fluoride because of Big Dental, who wants to, take
It's a
more
way to
teeth out.
reframe the debate, but again, going back to our main topic, it plays on fear, and it's like, let's have a rational discussion about what are the impacts of fluoride. What does
Exactly.
fluoride do? How many parts per million in your water is fluoride? Is that a safe amount? Is that an unsafe amount?
Right.
Let's have that debate, but it's not sexy. It's not something you're going to be able to put on the news. But you talk about, we're banning this dangerous substance out of your water so that you kids will have crappy teeth for the rest of your life.
Right.
That makes much better news. Again, it's fear, it's sound bites, it's something that shuts down debate
Right.
and allows people to make choices for you, or lets you make bad choices yourself because you're not getting informed.
Right.
And I know people will say, you know what, Dave, I watched you the last several months talking about all the bad things that Donald Trump is doing, and aren't you just selling fear yourself? I, you know, I will admit, hey, if you take what I'm saying and run with it as this is how you should run your life. Um, you know, I will always say caveat emptor, the let the buyer beware.
Yeah.
Do your research. And that's a great libertarian line. Do your research. But if you hear something and you say, man, that doesn't sound right, what I say, fact check me, please. Let
That's
me
it.
know. Let me know
E-
I'm an
yeah.
idiot. Because
Even if it,
I am.
yeah, I had a thing. What was it? A couple days ago. Oh, I couldn't
That's right,
believe
Laura.
that Trump had posted uh, a picture of himself as the Pope. I'm like, there's no way that's real. And I complained about it, and I complained to other people who posted. I'm like, you could do a little bit of fact checking about this. And then I looked, and I'm like, wow, he really did post
The
that
White
from
House
the
Twitter
White House
feed.
account. Right. And I
Yeah.
had to go back and retract all my things. But I want people to be that skeptical of stuff like that. So
And I
the
think
toxic
that,
level of fluoride is between 5 to 10 grams for humans based on your size and weight.
and it depends
So,
on how much is in the water
right. Oh, well,
you know,
so what's in the water is literally 1,000th of that.
yeah. See, like again, you would die of water toxicity,
Yes, exactly.
essentially
Which, right,
being drunk on water before
right.
you get to
If
the
you
point where
drink
you're
2 gallons of water, you'll definitely die in a day. Well, if you drink 2 gallons of water right now.
yeah, in rapid succession because it's
Yeah.
happened. There was a radio contest a few
Yeah.
years ago
Water
where
drinking
somebody drank a
contest.
bunch of
Yeah.
water and they died.
Yep.
Like,
There's
um,
there was a great website called The Spark, and they used to have crazy contests. And one of them was who could drink a gallon of milk the fastest. And a gallon of milk isn't toxic, but it's kind of weird.
if you're lactose intolerant,
Well,
you'll have some toxic
it
farts.
actually probably wouldn't be because the guy who won, he's like, what happens if I throw up? And they're like, throwing up's totally fine. You just have to drink the gallon. And so he drank like half a gallon and then threw up and then drank the rest. Won.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, I
I mean,
missed the spark.
most food contests will say you can't throw up, you can't go to the bathroom or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of it.
They did a great contest. They did another one, which was if you could gain 30 pounds in 30 days, they would pay you $1,000. And
Wow.
it was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, only one guy did it of the three.
That's it. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, it's not hard to gain weight, but to gain that much in that short of
In
time
that short time. That's
is a impressive.
yeah. And in fact, that guy
Rip his
won.
colon.
That guy won by drinking essentially a gallon of water through the last day and not peeing because a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. And that was what pushed him over the limit.
Dang. All right. I don't know if I could hold that in. I mean, I've got old man bladder, so it's gonna come if I
Yeah, I mean,
come hell or high water.
this guy, this guy was like 23 years old, so he had an
Yeah,
advantage.
yeah. He has no prostate issues.
Well, the funny thing is that
At least, yeah.
one of the people trying to do it was a young woman who was pretty damn thin. She couldn't put on any weight, right? I mean, they ate like the
It's
fattiest things they could, and like she gained like maybe 5 pounds over the course of a month.
metabolism. I mean,
It's
if you got to learn how
metabolism.
to shut down your metabolism, then you can gain the weight.
Exactly. Right.
I've
And, well,
figured that out. So now I'm starting to lose weight again. But
right. And that was the other thing about it, is that she really couldn't put the food away like the guy. I mean, the guy
yeah,
could just, I mean, men in general, we are eating machines. I have often heard it said by many women, right? I was fine with my weight up until I started eating with another man in the house. And then, right, I tried to say, well, I'll only eat 3/4. That's not enough, right? Because I can tell you, my wife does not want to be 3/4 of my weight. She would be very unhappy at that point. Even like at my thin weight.
yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
So we have other things on our list.
Yeah, other news this week. We've got an American Pope.
Yay.
Pope Leo the 14th, 13th?
Leo the 14th. People
Leo the
talk about
14th.
the significance of Leo the 13th and other Leos. He's an Augustinian, so he's very much a pope of the people, for want of another thing. But what's been really interesting about it is to see how people from Chicago have reacted to this, because the Pope is from Chicago. And so, Dave, I'm going to send you.
I hope the audio, because I'm on Firefox, because I was having problems with Chrome today.
Do you want me to share it? You can give me sharing.
Yeah, you can share it.
All right. Here we go. Let's see. Share screen. I'm going to do
Sharing means sharing.
Window.
I will say, in 1724, Pope Innocent the 13th died. That is the last Pope Innocent. And that is the end of the Age of Innocence.
Yeah. Let's see if this is going to work. All right. I think you have to allow my sharing. And hopefully the audio will come through here. The audio coming through?
Audio is coming through, at least from my end, but I'm not hearing it.
Oh, wait, there's no video. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go. Let me do this again. For people who don't know, this is the opening Chicago Bulls play before any game. And then they play this song, which is the Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah.
By the Alan Parsons, before the Chicago Bulls take the court.
Yes, Eye in the Sky, Alan Parsons Project.
Is it Eye in the Sky?
That's the intro to Eye in the Sky.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the name of it for the life of me. Anyway, but so it's interesting because I was proven wrong that now we know that Chuck went to Villanova. I was proven wrong that I thought Trump would take credit for it. He did post a picture of himself as Pope, but he did not take credit for making this guy Pope.
Well, his social media posts have been fairly he has posted against J.D. Vance's interpretation of Catholicism,
right?
And taking the Trump administration to task on their immigration policies. So
you're talking about Pope Leo the 14th here.
Yes, Pope Leo the 14th.
Beforehand, when he was,
he's only posted before he was taken as Pope.
Yeah.
He had posted like 5 times on Twitter over the last since the inauguration, and one was to take J.D. Vance to task. There were a couple regarding immigration, but it looks like he is probably on the same side as Pope Francis, not a Franciscan, of course, but
right now,
at least politically.
I would say that I'm going to share you a link that you can just pop up. The news story. Not everybody was happy about the new pope. And our friend of the show, Laura Loomer, lamented that the new pope is anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, pro-open borders, and a total Marxist, and that it's gross that he now
sign me up.
Yeah.
Where am I doing here? There we go.
They did refer to a lot of his posts, which is interesting. You can see some of it in the video. I don't think you need to play any of the noise, but he he absolutely has criticized J.D. Vance, who is supposedly a Catholic. Now it's weird. Like, I don't know what levels of Catholicism's people claim to be. Like, I mean, I know that Episcopal is Catholicism, right? Like, right? I mean, this one, right? That's that tweet they posted there was a George Floyd tweet, and then there's one there where he was directly criticizing J.D. Vance.
I mean, those two people, Laura Loomer and Charlie Kirk, are against you. You're on the right side.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie Kirk, that guy, it's crazy. But the funny thing about it is, right? I mean, for a long time, Christians didn't like Catholics, right? I mean, when Kennedy runs and other people,
Kennedy had to take Johnson as his vice presidential candidate for not only the Southern vote, but the anti-Catholic vote.
Yeah, because there was a lot of it. People thought that he would be beholden to the Pope. In fact, you can find signs, no papists, et cetera, from the 20s.
I mean, the Ku Klux Klan was very much
very anti-Catholic, absolutely. And so, here we have this scenario where, I mean, I don't know what level of Catholic J.D. Vance is. Like, is he Mel Gibson?
He's in this weird. He's in the
Opus Dei
level. Yeah, kind of in that same as
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson, yeah.
That's
trad path.
But so what's interesting about that, though, is that, right? Am I mistaken, though? Did Mel Gibson? Well, maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. It's very interesting, though, to see all these people who claim path to religious morality and then violate it all the time, right? Whether it's cheating on their wives or, exactly, that sort of thing. Thank you, Laura, for helping me with that. And I think people are like, Episcopalians are like Catholic light.
Methodists do the
Are there any branches of Christianity, and you people just help me out here, that think that premarital sex is okay? I'm just wondering, asking for.
I would say that most religion would say generally no, but whether they emphasize that. I mean, I would say that on the Baptist side, on the Protestant side, that it's much more of an issue. On the Catholic side, and that's one of the things that a legitimate gripe against the new pope is that he was accused of covering up for a molesting priest while he was in Chicago, and that's true. And that this is a long legacy of the Catholic Church that they're going to continue to have to pay for. But that's not to say it's just a Catholic problem, because it's funny how politicians make out that drag queen story hour at the library is a threat, but most of the molestation stories that you see coming out are either politicians or people in the clergy or teachers.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
But when molestation stories happen, it's the places where people bring children that are trusted, and church is one of those.
Right.
and church will continue to be a source of molestation and bad
Well,
things happening.
especially as long as conversations about sex are completely taboo.
Yeah.
Right? That you're taught that it's dirty and it's something to hide, etc. According to ChatGPT, the four major religions that are accepting of premarital sex: Unitarian Universalists, Reformed Judaism, certain branches of Buddhism, and Wicca.
Wicca.
So
All right. I mean, that works.
interesting to know.
Yeah.
And then it's funny
I
because
never
that's the
know.
one I know.
I never know
Go
about
ahead.
the Unitarian Universalists. Are they actually Christian, or is they just they're just like they're we accept everybody? Because I've never really. I mean, I'm not a religious person at all.
Yeah, no. So they are mostly they believe with the idea of sort of you are free to believe whatever you want to believe. It's
That works.
not centered on a belief in a supreme
A
being.
yeah.
Originally they started off as a branch of Christianity that rejected the doctrine of the Trinity. The idea that there are Catholics, right, the three into one and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but then eventually they merged with Universalism, which is believing that a loving God will not damn anybody. That there
Except for
is
Buffalo Sabres fans.
but see, in heaven the Sabres win every year. Um, so it
I
is
guess I'm
right.
not going to heaven.
the the interesting thing about it is that it is still a church. They meet on Sundays. People
Yeah.
go, stuff like that. My uncle, when his daughters got to a certain age, decided that he didn't want to raise them in New York City. And so he took a job as the head of the ACLU in Arkansas, and went there. It was a very interesting time. He was there when the Clintons were in power. Bill Clinton was governor. Hillary Clinton was at Rose Law Firm. Um,
Get all that Tidewater money.
exactly. Whitewater.
Whitewater.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Tidewater is a different scandal.
yeah.
Um, it has to do with eating laundry detergent pods. Um,
Mm.
but there came a point where his girls were getting asked in school, "What church do you go to?" And so he decided they should start going to the Unitarian Universalist Church instead of anything else, because it was church. They did things on Sundays.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. But so here's this new pope stepping into a world that has seen, and I thought David Brooks wrote an amazing article about this. People who don't know David Brooks, conservative writer for the New York Times, has been there for a long time,
Not
and
MAGA. He's
not
not
MAGA at
MAGA.
all. And he
Yeah.
talked about being ashamed when he meets his colleagues now, ashamed about all these places where the United States had the moral high ground for so long, even in
Yeah.
spite of all of our fuck ups. We had a lot of places where we really did have uh, the ability to speak from a set of moral authority, and he's like, that's gone. Right? They were willing to forgive
Oh
us.
yeah.
They were willing to forgive us. Trump won, but now that the second time, and this is quite literally the second coming of Trump and MAGAism and America, whatever. And so, to me, I feel like the appointment of an American pope is to sort of acknowledge that happening in the world and that loss of moral guidance, because I think, and look, there are a lot of people who can complain about a lot of shitty stuff the Catholic Church has done, and it's not just the abuse, it's not just the the Inquisition, it's not just oppression of LGBT people, it's not just whatever you want to go to.
Yeah.
Catholic Church has been responsible for a lot of shitty stuff. But
it takes in a lot of money, and it doesn't give out a lot of money either.
right, exactly. I mean, it is a cash cow, and they are tax exempt, right? I mean, it's funny
At least in the
because
United States, yes.
yeah, it's funny because are there other countries where they're not?
I would assume that there are some countries that they're not a tax exempt organization. I don't know that Europe, by and large, lets their churches
Yeah,
go untaxed. There's
it,
not that
right. I mean,
prohibition there.
certainly there was. I can't remember what the hell it's called, but Henry VIII did this thing where he went and took all the gold out of all the Catholic churches and melted it down to fund his war. Um, my British friends are going to kill me for not knowing that name. Audience, if you know, let us know. But I think that there is a perception that since Pope Francis came in, that the Pope has shown an ability to a movement for reforming radical beliefs towards a gentler position,
Tempering
right? Yeah,
tempering beliefs, yes.
yeah. And Francis did that, where he really made the thing where he's like, listen, gay people are oppressed, and the Catholic Church has had a part of that, and we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't be oppressing anyone. Yes, it's true.
That's right.
Nobody
Nobody expects
does.
a Spanish Inquisition.
That's such a great quote. Oh my god. Uh, it's completely true though. So I think that there was a hope, and I bet you that I believe that this had a lot to do with it. That by making an American pope, they're hoping to somehow replace the American voice that had been responsible for a conversation of morality around the world. I think about it a lot. We're talking about sports, right? The first really competitive women's sports team on the international scene was the American soccer team, and American basketball, right? Women's basketball, they would go to the Olympics and they would just dominate, and the women would dominate the World Cup. And it was because we had an enlightened view compared to the rest of the world, not just about women, but the idea, and I'm saying women having the right to vote and stuff like that, because certainly countries like France and Germany and England, women had the vote as long as they did in the United States. The
Yeah.
suffrage movement
Even
happens
before.
all the time.
Yeah.
But they did not put women into sports the way that Americans have, into team sports, until we showed what, first of all, until we showed how amazingly successful we were, but also until the statistics came out, right? And I'm going to get these wrong, but women who participate in team sports, I believe, are 30% less likely to be sexually assaulted in their lives. Uh, there's an income differential, confidence, things like that. Sports are good for everybody,
Yeah.
not just women. But
Exactly.
we were the first country, and so we had this moral thing of saying, look, we've promoted, we're on the cutting edge, and all you quote unquote Western countries, you're actually still backwater countries because women in your country don't do this, they don't do that, et cetera, et cetera. And all those other countries have gotten to that level. We still haven't elected a woman, and we're probably not going to anytime soon. And hopefully people think that the Catholics think that this Pope will get a chance to be an American talking about morality. I agree with that what Tom says, that trying to paint it out as a positive is a little bit naive, but
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
always going to hope for the best. I'm always going to hope for the best until I'm
I mean,
proven otherwise.
and
This guy's got a history, as you said, of some bad stuff.
yep,
Got some
he
bad
does.
statements on LGBT. Uh, on the other hand, as he
Maybe
was, yeah, exactly.
maybe maybe he's going to take what Francis did and expound upon it. That's my hope.
Right. And
Um,
realistically, this guy could be Pope for 20 years.
yeah, yeah, he's not. I mean, I don't know how young he is,
He's
but
69.
yeah, I mean, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's in great health.
Yeah.
Uh, stuff like that.
So was
So,
Francis when he came in, and the stress of the job is what gets you.
right.
I
Right.
mean, travel and all that stuff. It's not the
Right.
easiest job in the world, certainly, but
You know,
and they
I,
make you wear that big ass hat. Like if I'm getting older
oh,
and the
the
joints
neck
are,
strain, it's like F1.
hey,
It's funny. I saw a fascinating conversation about it. We talk about neck strain. Uh, so F1, the car goes so fast that unless you have really been doing weight training with your head and neck, you can't drive a whole race because the G forces are just so strong back
oh
and forth.
yeah, I can see
And
that.
I wonder if they could do something like that for the Pope with the big hat. Uh, there's a name for it, right? The mitre is the rod, and there's a name for the hat
Uh,
too. I can't remember
yeah, I
what
mean,
it
I
is.
know that the vestments are like a cassock, I think, and then I can't remember what the hat's called.
Yeah,
But
help us
yeah,
out,
yeah,
Catholics. Tom, you know what
we
it
can
is.
we can look at it too.
Yeah. Um, have you seen Eurotrip?
Yes.
There's a great scene there with the selection of the Pope, and I thought that was fantastic. Mitre is the hat. Well, what's the rod? Staff. Uh, Mitre is the hat. Thank you, Laura. Scotty doesn't know exactly
Oh,
right.
if it's yeah, Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah,
If he wears the skull cap, which he's been wearing, is the zucchetto.
but mitre is the ceremonial headdress worn by
Yeah.
bishops and some abbots in the Roman Church. All right, symbolizes authority and office. Uh, Mitre
Uh,
joint, so
uh,
named because it looks like the pointy hat.
the staff is called the papal ferula.
All right, I
Wow, we've learned some stuff.
so I will tell you a story here, since we're talking about the papal staff. When my friend Chad died, I was very sad, and I went and I did a reading at his memorial service, and I read "When I Crossed the Bar" by Lord Alfred Tennyson, which is just an amazing piece. If people aren't familiar with it, um, they should definitely look it up. But his family asked if I would read Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And then the next line is, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And the relationship that I had with Chad was such that we would have just laughed at that line. And so
Yes,
I ended up not saying it because I didn't think I could say it during the eulogy and not laugh. So I just
I
skipped
I
that line.
use that line whenever there's like a church scandal of
Yep.
biblical proportions.
Dum dum.
Usually a priest cheating scandal or something like this. He
Thy
just told her,
rod and
"Thy
staff,
rod and thy staff shall comfort
they
thee."
comfort me. Speaking of comforting, I find news quizzes to be comforting.
I think they are as well. Next week we're going to talk about, because I think we definitely need to just do a dive on this one. But habeas corpus, the news
Yep.
this week that Stephen Miller is pushing the idea of suspending habeas corpus, and definitely need to, if we're allowed to talk about it next week.
And what's crazy
Um,
about it is that, and we can talk about it right exactly if we're allowed to, but we're going to talk about Lincoln and his suspension of habeas corpus.
yeah,
And talk about how all these guys hate Lincoln. Refer to him as a dictator, but now they want to suspend habeas corpus just like Lincoln. It's crazy.
yeah,
Abraham Lincoln did have a big hat. Nice connection.
he did have a big
James.
hat.
Yep.
All right, news quiz, 5 things news quiz from May 9th, 2025. So things that
Don't
happened
cry
yesterday
for
and
me,
today.
Brazil.
Um,
Those are awards.
Looks like awards of some sort, some kind of film award.
This is the Kennedy Center, isn't it?
That's the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
And that's Lady Gaga. There was
In
definitely
Brazil?
some news on, not in Brazil. There was a attempt on her life, or at least the
Really?
lives of
The
her
Brazilian
concert
flag
goers.
there.
Yeah. So 5 things news quiz. We got the context clues. All right, question number 1. Which political figure was recently given the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award? Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, former President Bill Clinton, former Vice President Mike Pence, or former Representative Liz Cheney?
I know
I
this.
I hadn't heard the story, but if I was going to suspect one, it'd be Liz Cheney.
I think that your suspicion is justified.
Yeah, because if it was Mike Pence, usually this is on the
Right. It's still
Profile
given
and
by the
Courage Award is the
it's given
previous
by the
year.
Kennedys.
Yeah, it's the previous year,
Yeah.
and if they were going to give a Profile and Courage Award to Mike Pence, it probably would have been like 2021 or 2022.
You still couldn't, even though he did stuff, right? And he did do some stuff, right? But you can't get away from the fact that he's a conversion therapy guy and a bunch of other crazy shit.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, it was Mike Pence. Holy crap.
Wow.
Pence received the award for refusing to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
That's pretty crazy. I
didn't
can't believe
realize
that
it'd
his
be
wife
that
let him
big
be
of a
on
deal.
stage there with Caroline Kennedy.
I know. For those who don't know, Mike Pence has often refused to take elevators. It's the same thing that Billy Graham did. He's refused to be seen in public with other women.
Yeah.
Whether
be alone
being
with a
seated,
woman.
yeah, being alone with a woman. Billy Graham did the same thing, and I get I don't want to be accused of any impropriety being seen out. I get that, but it's a little extreme.
It's interesting. There was a time when I was campaigning in 2018. Jeff Lyons was my campaign manager, and we were at an event, and there was a young woman who was a journalist. The event was over. It was like 12 o'clock at night. And it's funny, Tom. And I'm like, I give you a ride home. And Jeff's like, I'll come with you guys. And I'm like, that's some weird shit because Jeff's car is here. But then afterwards, when we drove her home, he's like, you can't do that. It's like, you're a political candidate. You cannot be alone in a car with a woman. It's just not.
Especially
okay.
going over a bridge and you've been
Exactly. Especially in Massachusetts. Exactly.
Question number 2. A 70-year-old man was charged with stalking and vandalism after allegedly crashing into the front gate of a Bel Air home owned by which celebrity? Jennifer Aniston, Beyonce, Jennifer Lopez, or Elon Musk. It's not the Fresh Prince.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, it's Bel Air. It's got to be. Can you remember what the last name of that family was?
Oh, no, I can't remember what the name of the family was.
Me neither. Craig says Jennifer Aniston, and I would believe that. I don't think
she's
Beyonce,
still hot.
She's still super hot. I don't think Beyonce or Jennifer Lopez live. I don't think any of the other three live in Bel Air.
Tom Mann says Jennifer as well.
Yeah.
All right. Not that being hot means that you should be eligible for stalking.
No, exactly
that's
right.
Bullshit, but she's still smoking hot.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Aniston was reportedly home when the incident happened. Oy.
Wow.
Yikes.
I recently, I've been rewatching the Mark Twain Awards, which if you haven't watched them, they're amazing. And the Jennifer Aniston was on when Adam Sandler won it. And she said, I've made 3 movies, now she's made 4 with Adam Sandler. It's like, people thought it was a strange pairing, but they've all done really well, and we became the greatest friends. And Adam Sandler, the first time we met, he wrote me a song, and he calls me up every year on my birthday and sings the song to me. And it's called I'll Never Have a Friend Like You. And then Drew Barrymore stands up from the audience. She's like, oh my God, he wrote the same song for me and sings it to me.
Wow.
Awesome. Just a really nice piece.
Aniston over Jolie any day. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I like Jennifer. Yeah, Jolie is smoking hot, but
but she's first of all, I'm gonna complain about her dad.
Her dad's
gone
like
off the deep end.
Yeah.
And then it's I don't know. Anyway, But so Conan, as a Boston guy, Conan won the most recent Mark Twain Award. I recommend
There you
people
go.
look for highlights on YouTube.
All right. Question number 3. Shark Ninja announced a massive recall of which type of appliance this week due to reports of burn injuries? A microwave oven, coffee maker, toaster, or pressure cooker?
I don't know. If all I know that they made was the blender bullet thing.
They do the Ninja Foodie, which is a pressure cooker kind of combo thing,
Okay.
which
I mean,
I
that
would
seems
say
most likely.
it kind of a pressure cooker shape there.
I mean, it's
I'll
if a pressure
see if anybody
cooker
in the
goes
audience
wrong,
has any.
it can be incredibly dangerous. So,
Oh yeah, pressure cookers are. I mean, they're essentially bombs. Like the amount of pressure in the pressure cooker is intense. It's the same principle. I remember the submarine imploding off
right.
of the or by the Titanic. Essentially, the microseconds before it actually imploded,
Yeah.
the internal temperatures of because of the pressure were super super hot, like
Yeah.
sun level hot. So,
Yeah.
um,
Pretty crazy.
yeah, let's do pressure cooker. It is
Yeah.
2,000,000. I'll give
Right. This is like the hot
James
pot
partial
thing,
credit
right?
on this one. What's that?
This is like this is the hot pot, right? They kind of call that or Instapot.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Instapot. This has, I think, a bunch of different functions. I think James is right in that it has an air fryer function as well. I've got an
Two
Instapot
million.
that has an air fryer function and a slow cooker function. So
Wow, that's pretty
yeah,
awesome. Too bad it burns people.
too bad it explodes. I actually have lost a couple of pressure cookers to structural failures. Not catastrophic by any stretch, but
Really?
yeah, I had one. The seal broke in the middle of a cook, and it
Was
just
it the
shot.
old style with the?
No, not the old pot locking
Yeah,
lid is type thing. It was kind of like this,
interesting.
but yeah, the seal failed and the internal pot got warped. It was really interesting.
Hmm.
Question number 4: which automaker announced plans to hike sticker prices for 3 models it imports from Mexico due to Trump's tariffs? Toyota, Chrysler, Ford, or General Motors?
I'm going to guess Ford, but I have no idea.
I don't
But
either.
I did see the release statistics that the government has made $56 billion this year off of tariffs. That's new from last year. So it is clearly tariff money. The problem is that money came from Americans.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another tax on Americans. And
Exactly.
and yeah, we can talk about the British trade agreement
Yep.
that was hammered out,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
absolutely horrible job for if you think Donald Trump is some mastermind negotiator, we still have a 10% tariff on British goods, which we didn't have before.
Right.
So
Yep.
we're still paying 10% higher for British goods.
Yeah, it's completely stupid. He's an
James says
moron.
Tesla, which is not a choice. All right, I'm going to go forward as well. It is Ford.
Look at us.
Yeah, Ford is raising prices for the Mustang Mach E, the
That's
Maverick,
the
and the
electric Mustang.
Bronco. What's that?
That's the electric Mustang.
Yeah, the Maverick and the Bronco, up to $2,000 each. That's hefty.
You know, it's crazy that Mustang is now the only car that Ford makes. Right? I mean, for many years, right, the Taurus was among the best-selling of American cars.
Yeah,
They discontinued it, and it meant for like a generation of people that they were going to have to find a new way to signal that they'd given up on their dreams. It used to be they'd buy a Taurus, and that's how they knew. But now,
well, I mean, you've got minivans now, so I mean, that's
exactly right. I guess it's
minivans.
the same. Right.
All right, question number 5. President Trump announced plans to reopen which notorious prison to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders?
This I
Eastern
know.
State Penitentiary, Alcatraz, Fort Delaware, or Ohio State Penitentiary?
I've never even heard of these other ones. It's got to be. It's of course Alcatraz. What the hell is Fort Delaware? I don't believe there's
I
anything tough in Delaware.
don't know. You know what's tough in Delaware? Getting out there in the middle of the summer on a Friday afternoon. That's
Yep.
tough because people are going across that Bay Bridge in by Annapolis, and it's murder getting out there. Yep, we
Uh,
are going back to the Rock here, to Alcatraz, which
the
you know
amount of
what?
money it's going to take to bring that back up to standard is insane.
Do you think that they're going to try and bring it back up to standard? I mean, look, knowing everything we know about this administration.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because otherwise, how are you going to get around the cruel and unusual punishment part of the Constitution?
Well, they own the Supreme Court. I mean, we've seen some outliers from the Supreme Court, but
Yeah.
you know, anything is up for debate at this point.
Yeah. It's interesting looking at Fort Delaware. It was pretty cool. It has a moat around it. So it would have been an interesting
Nice.
prison. But uh,
All right, question number 6. The release of which highly anticipated video game has been delayed until May of 2026? Grand Theft Auto 6, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Borderlands 4, or Elden Ring Night Rain?
this I know. It's GTA 6.
It is a GTA 6. Yeah, we see with all the bright colors and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely not Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
GTA 6. Been waiting for GTA 6 for over a decade, and analysts will be expected to be an instant hit. Yeah, you know,
Have you played any of them?
I have. The problem I get with the game is that I get stuck in a loop where I do something and piss off the cops, and then I just want to fight cops all night,
Right.
and then I just don't make any progress in the game, so it
I
becomes
I
monumentally slow.
I reached a stage in GTA 5 where you can perform this amazing accomplishment where if you get a really fast motorcycle, you can ride it down the beach and then jump up and over the fence into an Air Force base where there's an F-16. And you can
And
then
you can steal
run, you can steal the F-16 and then fly
that's
around and
sweet.
yeah, it's awesome. That's
That's
all I
sweet.
want to do in the game now.
You know, I remember do you remember the hot cocoa exploit?
Yes.
All right. So story is that GTA had this hot cocoa exploit, and it allowed you to have a simulated sex act in the with a prostitute or a girlfriend if you get to a girlfriend level. Um, a parent sued Rockstar Games, the manufacturer of Grand Theft Auto, and said that her son had found the exploit and was viewing this stuff, and it blew my mind because that same game you're able to break into just in the regular gameplay. You're able to break into a police station. In the cells in the back of the police station, there was a pink dildo, like a double-headed
Right.
dildo,
Yeah.
and you could beat a cop to death with a pink double-headed dildo. No complaints about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just weird. All right.
Crazy stuff.
Question number 7. President Trump held a somewhat contentious meeting this week with the leader of which country? China,
China.
Mexico, India, or Canada?
We know it was in India because there's a huge war going on. ABQ.
Albuquerque, baby.
Yeah. Tom's joke is pretty funny. I don't know. I think it's Mexico, but maybe it's China.
No.
Is it China?
No.
Canada. Right. He met with
Canada.
Carney. He did meet with
Yep.
Carney.
He met with Carney, and during the thing where they're talking about Canada being subsumed by the United States, he said something about never say never, and Mark Carney was like, "No, it's not going to happen." He said, "Never say never," and he mouthed the word never.
Yeah, it was awesome. I will say I was disappointed to learn a little bit of false advertising. Carney has never actually worked at a carnival.
He is not a Carney. He's not a true Carney.
Exactly.
But a lot of people's names are based off of something that the family member in the past has done. So like,
yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. I watched. Let me plug another show now. Have I Got News for You? It's been a staple of British political commentary for, I don't know, 30 years. They started one in America, and it's on HBO, and it's really good. I've been really
Yeah, my sisters told me about that. It's
the
I don't
really
have the HBO streaming. Like, it's got to
but
the point where I might as well just get the cable because all of the streaming services I have are more than what the cable package is.
well, let me suggest that if your sister has it, she could share her
Share,
subscription with you.
sure. So they're
And that
cracking down on that. They're
well, no,
instituting things.
but for families, they're not. So you get the family package and you share it with up to 5 people. That's the
Nice
way to go.
package.
Yeah, like ESPN Plus, for example.
Oh, it
Um,
was in Brazil. I thought this was in England, but
yeah, no,
police in
she was
Rio
saying
de
in front of
Janeiro
a
recently
big
foiled a
Brazilian. Yeah,
possible attack on a concert featuring which music superstar?
it
Was it
was
Lady
Lady Gaga.
Gaga, Madonna, Billie Eilish, or Beyonce? It
Yeah,
was Lady Gaga.
yeah.
Yep. Authorities in Brazil said 2 people attempted to recruit fans to carry out attacks at the Lady Gaga concert using IEDs and Molotov cocktails.
It's very strange.
Molotov cocktails are not fun to drink. Just remember that.
Mm.
Question number 9. Some actors in which hit musical may bow out of a performance for President Trump at the Kennedy Center? The Cats, Les Miserables, The Lion King, or Wicked?
I can't imagine any of the others touring except for Wicked.
Wicked, yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume it's Wicked as well. Let's check it. No, it's Les
Wow,
Mis.
that's
10 to,
crazy. I
10
mean,
to 12. I mean, Les Mis is always touring. Like, it's just,
yeah, it's just a like I think Les Mis. You could make a huge
Laura got it.
by like singing at the president. Um, I don't know. Probably be lost on him anyway, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
One more
I've got a
day,
theory that President Trump
one
is
more. Sorry,
non-compass mentis at this point. So
I agree. I
him
don't even want to
and
see what
John
his floor is going to
Fetterman.
be.
John Fetterman's getting that way too.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is Fetterman's better now than he was during the election.
Well, he there was a incident this week where he was talking to a bunch of educators, educated teachers union, and went off on them. And people are speculating that he's got like the kind of the
Stroke.
aspects of dementia where you stark out at people. His aide, you know, ushered him out and was seen crying afterwards. Like,
Interesting.
I don't know. All right, question number 10 for an 8 out of 10 week, I think. Which new category will be added to the Golden Globes this week or in 2026? I'm sorry. Best stunt, best kiss, best end credit scene, or best podcast?
I thought it was most phallic statue, but this is it's best stunt.
Is it best stunt?
I think so because I know the Oscars just added it as well. So
Because I'm disappointed it's not a podcast.
we would be up there.
Oh, it is best podcast. We got something to look forward to in 2026.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this: if we get nominated, who do you hope is the host? I mean, I gotta hope for Ricky Gervais because he's just fantastic.
Yeah, Ricky's awesome.
But have you seen his hosting of the?
Oh yeah, I mean he
that's
makes
fantastic.
everyone feel uncomfortable.
But
so it's all good.
Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are also just amazing. I've been. I think I mentioned I was
for Tina Fey.
Oh, I have a huge thing for Tina Fey. Oh my god, it is. I rewatched. I told you I was rewatching the Mark Twain Prize, and she is just so brilliant.
Yes,
it's
hilarious.
unbelievable. And the jokes they did that sketch on Saturday Night Live. Meet Your Second Wife. Have you ever seen that?
I've not seen that one.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. Everybody after the show should search for Meet Your Second Wife SNL.
And I hate because you see these knuckleheads who talk about female comedians, and
yeah,
the quality of female comedians is outstripping male comedians hardcore right now. Where you think Taylor Tomlinson, You think Tia Fey? I've seen some other ones that are out there that are just killing it right now, and it's refreshing to see because they
Right.
rather than just and
Julia
God,
Louis
I
Dreyfus.
love a good fart
Yeah.
joke. I will make fart jokes all day.
Right.
But the intelligent comedy is what I'm here for, and they
Yeah. I
bring it in
think that.
spades.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting too. So uh, Tina Fey wrote another great sketch with who was
Seven
it?
out of 10.
Yeah, I thought we'd done worse
Uh,
actually.
we've done. We had like a
So
50%
I
rate.
thought we'd done worse night. She did another great sketch with Julia Louis Dreyfus, um, the woman from Childhood, whatever that movie is, Patricia Heaton, not Patricia Heaton. Um, anyway, oh, and Emma Stone,
Oh,
and
that's another one. Lord,
they and they're like, "What is this party for?" And they're like, "Well, it's Tina Fey's. We're celebrating. Today is her last fuckable day in Hollywood. Okay, now she's going to be considered too old to be fuckable." And they go on about it and they talk about Julia Louis Dreyfus, how she had this great run, but now she's only going to be cast as a witch or evil stepmother, stuff like that. And then the same thing for the woman. And then at the end, she's like, "Well, what is she's like, what is a man's last fuckable day?" And they all just laugh. Men don't have last fuckable days, right?
I
They made a
mean,
movie with George Clooney.
yeah,
He's
George
80.
Clooney is now. I mean, how old is George Clooney now?
I don't know. I think he's 80. But
Let's see.
there are plenty of. My favorite joke about this. Uh,
64 years old.
let me plug another thing in media. We should do this. We should just have a little like media recommendation. If you haven't seen the movie Norma Ray, I cannot recommend it enough. You talk about my childhood crushes. Uh, Sally Field, way up there. Um, but she just did a book tour 5 or 6 years ago, talking about how really fucked up her life was, abusive childhood, um, stuff like that. Uh, but in Norma Ray, I was going to mention it because so she plays Tom Hanks' love interest in Punchline, and then
And
like
his
3 years
mom.
later plays his mother in Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Crazy. But Norma Ray, guys, people who think that they understand the union movement, you probably don't.
Yeah.
And Norma Ray is just a phenomenal, based on a true story, shows a union worker, a union rep, going down and trying to unionize
Sling Blade.
a textile plant in Alabama. And it's an amazing movie. So please, thank you, AJ. Yeah, Norma
Yep.
Ray is just unbelievable.
Yep.
Sally Field
Absolutely.
wins the Oscar for it, and that's all I got.
That's all I got too this week. Thanks for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Next week, we'll be talking about habeas corpus and the possible impacts of what that might mean. Hopefully they don't suspend it before we meet again next time. We might not be able to have a
Yep,
show. So
yep.
anyway,
It's interesting because habeas corpus, the people who are really the most against it right now are the Japanese because they eat porpoises. Sorry. All right. See you guys later.
Shane's getting canceled. All right.